is up, everyone? Welcome back to Smoke Meteoras, where we talk about the moments that matter and the struggles the talents face on the rise, not just the accomplishments. Today's guest is someone who has found a way to combine athleticism, personality, passion, and just enough chaos to earn the name the Friendly Neighborhood Firestarter. Whether
Hmm.
we changed it now.
Oldie but a goldie. That's an oldie but a goldie.
I forgot what the new one was. I'm blanking.
It's okay. I got it for you. I have taken my mischievousness all around Canada and America. So I guess technically that means I'm international and I'm the man of mischief. So together you take
Yes, that's what it is.
international man of mischief, and that is me. It's your boy. That's me.
Well, to change
Mischief
that
man.
to International Man of Mischief, whether you're competing on your own,
Yes.
teaming up with one of your many partners, creating content around one of your biggest passions, or just bringing your energy to a new audience, he is continuing to find ways to make people remember the name Juni Underwood. So today we are going beyond the fire to discover where it all started, what continues to fuel it, and who Juni is when the flames finally settle.
Yes.
Juni, welcome to Smoke Meteoras.
Hey, that was awesome. I like that. Very
Absolutely.
nice.
So let's just jump right on in. So
Oh yeah.
before we talk about all the mischief, I want to go back to the person who first discovered wrestling. So,
Yes.
what was your first true connection to wrestling?
The first memory I have, and odds are I did not watch this live, but the first memory I have of watching wrestling was the Triangle Triple Threat ladder match between the Hardy Boys, E and C, and the Dudley Boys. Uh, that match was just so awesome. I mean, obviously it ended up creating the TLC match, etc. But um, yeah, it just that match was really awesome, and my dad was a big, uh, he definitely steered me into what to watch wrestling wise growing up. Um, but yeah, that was my first like real connection. I remembered like after I saw that match, I was hooked on watching wrestling, and then of course I had a whole bunch of like old VHS tapes of like Stone Cold and The Undertaker and The Rock and kind of that era of VHS, like Attitude Era VHS tapes. Um, so I grew up on a lot of that, and it was
So,
tons of fun.
absolutely. So, growing up with that, what fascinated you more about wrestling? Was it like the athleticism, the characters, the entrances, or the storytelling, or maybe a mix of all of it?
Yeah, I'd say a mix of all of it. Like when I think about like that beginning stuff that I watched a lot, I think of like Undertaker and the Ministry of Darkness and their feud with Stone Cold, and I think of D-Generation X, and I hardly think about like matches. I usually think about a variety of like moments of that era,
Yes.
and thinking of like sometimes there's like fun moments in matches. I mean, Jeff Hardy being a daredevil, he had a lot of like athleticism and moves that he would like pull out in matches or even moments that would be like death defying, and it would just be so awesome. And of course that all like played to his character and his ideals. He's a daredevil and never say die and would do anything to win or achieve his goals, like um very easy. And it was very easy to understand all of these characters too. Like that's what I think. That's why I think like the Attitude Era was probably so successful, because it allowed us to have like the campy corny characters, but it all made sense. Whereas like now, if we tried to have campy or corny characters, people like, you know, they talk bad about it and it gets a bad rep, even though like people like Danhausen would have been great in the Attitude Era, in my opinion.
Thousand
Like
percent.
like having basically a mini Undertaker cursing people, like that just feels perfect there. And it feels perfect here to me as somebody that enjoys characters and fun and fun. You know, I like fun. Um, and like I think a lot of the stuff that I love within wrestling reminds me a lot of comic books. Like I love comic books and you know superheroes, etc. So yeah, I would say that's what drew me the most as a kid. As I grew up and my attention span got a little shorter, I definitely liked watching more like I loved by the time I was 8, I loved the X Division in TNA. I loved TNA. I love TNA. Um, but because like Chris Sabin is my favorite wrestler. Um, but I don't discredit the idols that I had like prior to him, like Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, Jeff Hardy. Those were like probably my OG three, and then Sting. I really love Sting. Um, and then when you get further, like as I got further along and I kept, you know, growing up, I obviously added who I really cared about on the wrestling level. Like I love Christian Cage a lot. He's one of my probably one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Um, Chris Sabin again, still my favorite wrestler. Um, but yeah, like I would say at first it was definitely character, and then as I grew up a little bit, my attention started to deviate really quick. I needed some real action. Um, and so I do think that both of those things has kind of helped me mold the idea that I have now, like the ideology that I bring to wrestling of like I think I think if somebody were to look at me and say, "Hey, he's like a super indie wrestler," I don't think they watched me wrestle. I don't think they paid attention because that's not me. Maybe at a point it was like I tried to be super indie, but we all do. Like when we're in our first few years, like we're just trying to do all the stuff. Like we're trying to learn, we're trying to make mistakes. We want to make mistakes. And people consider being super indie a mistake, but I disagree. There's a I think everybody kind of has to go through that phase of doing a whole bunch of stuff and seeing what works, and then you know dialing it back, and then trying to find their character, and then trying to do all of it at the same time. And for me, I've spent almost 4 years now developing those characters and evolving it and changing it and feeling, you know, maybe running into something that I didn't know was a thing or etc. Like there are so many fire starters in wrestling or pyro or fire oriented people. And I was like, okay, I got to get away from that. But what, you know, how can I keep that idea? How can I keep some of those ideas still present and relevant in what I'm doing? And then that's kind of how this whole mischievous idea came along because it's not even an idea. Like, it's not even a character. I enjoy goofing around and having fun. And like I said, fun is probably going to be the main keyword in this whole show is having fun. And yeah, I think a large part of that really stemmed from what I loved as a kid.
Absolutely. So back when you were a kid, did you immediately see yourself becoming a wrestler, or was this a dream that developed over time?
Yes. Yes. However, uh, when I was in the 10th grade, I I had kind of gotten tired of being bullied about it, so I just stopped. Like I just stopped watching it. And then there's an origin story, but eventually I got back into wrestling when I was a sophomore in college, and that kind of snowballed into today. Sophomore year of college was like 2018, so 8 years now.
So Before wrestling became a part of your identity, who was Juni Underwood as a kid? What kind of kid were you growing up?
Yeah. Um,
A fun-loving kid.
uh, yeah, maybe. Very angry. Had a lot of anger. Was a very easily angered kid. Um, I had a lot going on. I had to grow up really early. At least I felt like I did. And yeah, I think I feel like I had just way too many thoughts from like a really young age. Just thoughts generally. Like I just think I had like a very interesting understanding and consciousness. Because like I remember a lot. I can't remember like, you know, pure details. I can't remember on this exact day I in 2003 I jumped on a trampoline. I can't remember that stuff, but I can remember like, oh, when I was, uh, you know, when I was 7, I got bullied and thrown into a tree, uh, and I laughed about it, and the bully got mad and ran away, whatever that means. Um, like I have stuff like that, but as a kid growing up, I the thing that I admire, that I am very thankful for, is that I always did my best. Always, like even as a kid, like I would be so lost and I'd be so confused, but I would always be doing my best. Whatever that was. If I only had 10% to give, I was giving 10. If I had 150, I gave 150. That's how I always operate. That's how I've always operated. And I definitely wanted to, I definitely gave a lot of love, maybe to people that didn't care for it, deserve it, whatever the case is. But I would say as a kid, I always did my best, and that has continued.
So, growing up, were you always a naturally outgoing person or were you always competitive? These are some of the traits that tend to come out a lot when it comes to wrestling.
Um, I think I think people would say I've always been outgoing. I'm not necessarily sure. I feel like I say to myself pretty frequently, but I did have a good amount of friends, I guess. You know? I like anytime my mom's like, "Oh, this is a picture from your birthday," and like blah blah blah. I was like, "Oh, I had like a good amount of friends at this birthday party." Like stuff like that. And who knows how real a lot of those relationships were. I imagine they were pretty real for what they were at the time. Um, because stuff like that is relative to time. You know, um, like at the time when we all went to high school together, or middle school, or elementary school, we were who we had. Whatever whatever that means. Um, Competitive. I definitely was a lot more competitive. Like now I'm not really that competitive. I kind of just want to have fun. Like I just like I've recently been playing chess at work. During the summer, I'm a janitor, and I've been playing chess with my boss and a coworker, and they get so competitive. They're like yelling at each other and this and that, and even sometimes they'll like get a little heated at me, and I'm just giggling, and I'm like, like whatever. Like I could be losing, I could be getting destroyed, and I'm just laughing. And if I'm winning, I'm laughing, and it's just I'm very much just trying to have fun playing chess. I could not care less about winning or losing. But if I was a young lad, like if I was 18, maybe even, I feel like I stopped kind of being so competitive, probably 21, 22, when I kind of stopped. Like I ran, uh like I ran club cross country and in college, and I played club soccer in college, and, like, all of those, like, I tried really hard and I worked really hard, but I think after I stopped doing those, I was just like, I don't feel I don't really feel, like, the super competitive nature. When it comes to wrestling, when the bell rings, I wanna win, but I also really wanna have fun, and that kinda comes first to me, in my opinion, what I want out of my life.
So, I can't talk today.
No, it's all good.
What parts of your younger self are still present today in your character?
Oh, man. Oh, I've done this forever. I have a picture of it. It's more of Stone Cold's thing, but Stone Cold does this, and I dressed up as him for Halloween one year when I was a kid, like, maybe 3, and you see me doing this, and progressively, there are pictures where I'm hitting this, and then, like, progressively, as life goes on, I'm, like, cocking it a little more, and so, like, there like, I didn't even when I was wrestling, it wasn't something that I thought of consciously. This isn't a thing that I necessarily knew that I did. Like, this was my I would get an assist or I would score in soccer, and I would just throw this up, and I would, whatever. It's not something that I recognized and did consciously. And then as I've been wrestling, I would, I would do something and I would clap a few times and then I would do this pose and I wouldn't even realize it. And then one day somebody was like, "Yeah, you got to make sure you hit that pose." And I'm just like, "What are you talking about?" And they like mocked me, they did the clap and the thing. And I was like, "Is that a thing that I do?" And they're like, "Have you not watched yourself back at all?" And I'm like, I think I did, but I didn't notice." And they were just like, "Yeah, nah, you do it." And then I'm like looking and I'm like, "Oh, I do this." And then it kind of just continued to like, it became a conscious effort and a conscious thing. Um, so yeah, I used to do this as a kid. I've always like mocked whenever I'm having fun and I mock someone. Like I've always done that. Like I've always done that. I've always done that for whatever reason. I think it's because I saw South Park too early. Um,
Belt.
and so like I always do the me. Um, and I've also always done like a Cartman impression. I don't know why. And I've always been really good at Cartman impressions and Mickey Mouse impressions. Um,
Fun fact, one of my stims, anytime there's somebody named Kenny in the room and they get hit, I go, "Oh
oh,
no, they killed Kenny."
oh my god, you killed Kenny. That type of stuff is very fun. Uh, that anytime I hear "oh boy," I'm like, "Oh boy." Uh, it's whatever. I have fun. I enjoy it. Um, yeah, I would say those are the main things. Like I said earlier, always doing my best is something that is still very prevalent. That was something very important to me as a kid to do.
So, you had experience in athletics and martial arts before wrestling even became a thing for you.
Oh
But
yeah.
what originally attracted you to those types of discipline and sports?
Well, with with martial arts, I was a smaller kid, and I'd get bullied, and my mom wanted me to be able to defend myself, in which became very useful. I had to defend myself quite a lot growing up. Um, there was a time where I uh, had basically a hole in my head. I had my entire eardrum removed because I had a tumor wrapped around it. Um, when I was what was 6th grade? 12. 7th grade is when I had my first surgery, first of 5 ear surgeries to get rid of that tumor. Um, the scientific term or the term the doctor would tell me, it was called a cholesteatoma. It's a tumor wrapped around my eardrum. I said that already, but for those who need to hear things more than once. Um, and I yeah, I had 5 ear surgeries from 7th grade to ninth grade, and I wasn't and during that time period, I literally the doctor was like, "Hey, the last thing allowed for you is to get hit in your head. You need to not do that. Avoid that at all costs. You will probably die." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, say it a little easier or something, doc." Um, and I took that to heart. There were a couple of scares, but I'm obviously here, so I ended up being okay. Um, but the only thing I could really do to be active was run. And even then, they were like, "Hey, please don't, like, if you start getting a headache while you're running, stop." And I'm like, "Okay." And they kind of got to the point where they were like, "Well, we're worried about you running because if you sprint, etc., like, you have nothing here. Like, we don't want, you know, too much movement, too much nothing." And I was like, "Okay, whatever. What can I do to stay active?" And they were like, "Uh, push ups and sit ups." And I'm like, "That's lame. I don't want to do those." Eventually, I did something to just stay active, but I was able to run. I finally got them to be like, "All right, you can run." And so, yeah, I think a lot of what I did in my life was all like by happenstance. Like, because these things are happening to me, this is how I am dealing with it and coping with it and battling that. Um, I think really wrestling is like the first time I like made the choice to do something. The active choice. Like, nothing is making me do this for X number of reasons. Like, this isn't my choice because I can't play football. This isn't my choice because I can't do martial arts. This isn't my choice because I'm getting bullied. This is my choice because I love professional wrestling and I want to be a professional wrestler. You know?
Absolutely. So, when it did come to those sports, when running specifically, what did that teach you about endurance and discipline when it comes to your own mind?
Yeah, I think it really I think that's the biggest thing is the mental hurdle. Like, with running, with anything really, it's all about whether or not you quit. If you quit, you've quit, that's it. If you're running, if you're in a race and you're in first and you just stop, you're not coming in first. That's just how it goes. There's no distance far enough. Because usually when you stop, when you're running and you've been running for such a long time, your body just starts to shut down because it's like, "Oh, we're done. We've been running for a really long time." And so a lot of it is like pushing the finish line, resting when you're done, that type of thing. Like, I definitely, unfortunately, have a very "I'll sleep when I'm dead" mentality. Um, and that's played a huge factor in my wrestling. Um, I've wrestled a lot. I've had a lot of matches in just under 4 years. Um, and a large part of that is like, I'll be tired. I'll be so tired, and I'll drive anyway, and I'll get to the show, and I'll wrestle, and I'll be tired, and I'll get home somehow, and I'll go to sleep, and then I sleep for a pretty long time, and then I repeat it the following weekend. Um, but yeah, I would say that was the biggest thing. The biggest thing was just getting through the hurdles, getting through the mental struggle of wanting to quit. Not an option.
Absolutely. We got somebody in the chat saying Juni Underwood, sorry, versus Jeffrey Johns.
Who said this?
On YouTube, this is Nicholas for I'm gonna slaughter this name. Ferrante 7-2-70.
Sick. I mean, I love Jeffrey John. I'd
Is
love to
this a
wrestle
match
him.
that's happened yet or has
We
yet to
haven't
happen?
wrestled one on one. We've wrestled in a lot of multi-man matches. A lot. A lot.
I'm pretty sure I was there for one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible you were there for many of them, for a few of them at least. Yeah, we
When it comes
wrestled.
to GCW, Hartford's my one show.
Yeah, him and I have been in a lot of multi-man matches, whether it's Revolver, GCW. Um, a few things are for certain in this life, and it's death, taxes, and Jeffrey John and Juni Underwood in a multi-man match.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because when I saw the comment, it did not ring a bell with his name, but it's Jeffrey John's Babushka. Is that who
Yeah,
he
yeah,
is?
yeah, yeah. Babushka
I
Baron.
was gonna say my fiance's right here, and he looks at me and
Yeah.
he goes, "Yes, yes, it is."
Yes. Yeah, he hits the babushka. Yeah, I like when he does
Yes,
that.
yes.
That's
All
pretty
right,
nice,
now
yeah.
I knew who you're talking about.
Yeah, it gets me amped up.
He gets everybody amped up. The babushka.
Yeah, it's
He just
fun.
does this, and the whole crowd goes
Yeah, it's
wild.
like a little maestro.
Yeah, and it's so over. All right. So when we already kind of got there. But so when along the way of watching wrestling did it become more of a want to wrestle instead of just being a fan? Was there a specific turning point for
Um,
that?
Chris Sabin. Yeah, just watching Chris Sabin. There was something where I was I thought this is such a v- easy story. Like this, he had a story with Petey Williams where he was basically like, "Yeah, nobody's countered the Canadian Destroyer, but I can." And at this point, nobody countered the Canadian Destroyer from Petey Williams. And if he hit that move, the match was over. And I sit there and I'm like, "You can't counter the Canadian Destroyer. It's never been done." And then he did it. And I was like, and for whatever reason, that triggered my little brain to just be like, wow, that's awesome. I want to tell stories. I want to wrestle. And then I eventually got here.
So how long did you sit with the idea before actually acting on it? How long did it take you to sign up for training and get into wrestling?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'd been bullied a good bit. And then when I got back into wrestling, uh, which, yeah, I was like 21 years old. And I ended up starting training in June of 2021. And yeah, I've ended up having really debuting September of 2022. So about a year and a few months of having of training, I started having real matches and yeah. So I guess technically a pretty long time to pull the trigger. I was 23 when I took my first bump. I was 23 years old. So
And when you first decided to train and get into it, was it something that you were confident enough to tell people right away, or did anybody maybe try and talk
yeah,
you out of it?
people try to talk me out of it, but I was very convinced. I had everything planned. There was too much that I had already sacrificed to come do it to do it, and there's already so many people that helped me. Like my late grandfather was like such a big supporter. He, for whatever reason, believed off rip. Like I told him I was going to do it, and he believed in it. And when I was saving up money to move up here, um, I worked at a landfill, and that was just brutal, super awful. And one day he goes to the landfill to dump some stuff, and he's up there and he sees all these transfer trucks, and he's like seeing where I'm at, and it's freezing rain, and uh, yeah, he just sees me, and he goes, "Come to the house when you're off of work." And I said, "Okay." And when I get there, he's just like, "How much do you need? How much more do you need to save up so that you can start your wrestling journey? So you can stop doing this?" And I told him, and he said, "Okay, go turn in your 2 weeks notice because I'm just gonna do that." And I was like, "You're so awesome." And like, I think that was the moment that I was like, I'm not gonna fail. I don't even know what failing really looks like. Like, I'm not gonna quit though. That's for sure. Like, I'm not gonna quit. My grandfather did this, and it's almost like, yeah, I don't know. That's a whole different can that I'm not. Uh, I would like to not necessarily get into today, but
Not a
um,
problem.
but that was a big moment. That was like, yeah, it doesn't matter what anyone says to me. I'm gonna make this work.
So there's a major difference between imagining yourself as a wrestler and walking into a school for the first time.
Yeah, and
So
doing
let's
it.
get a little more into when the dream physically happened.
Yes.
So, what are some of the things that you remember most vividly about your first day of training? So, like, what are some of the moments that surprised you? Maybe something that had humbled you, or some of the things that came naturally to you in the first couple of days?
Um, it was so awesome. I mean, I enjoy the pain of it all was not too terrible. Um, I think my first day I took a power bomb because I wanted to send it to my dad, and he like gave me one, and I was like, "Wow, that was sick." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was sick." And then the person recording it goes, "My bad, I didn't hit record." So I looked at him and I said, "All right, we're gonna do another one." And he goes, "You're a nut job." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm gonna have to do this eventually, right? Like, might as well." And so like I learned, I learned how to bump pretty quick. I learned how to do I learned the basics really fast. The basics were incredibly easy for me to learn. Obviously, they're not mastered. Um, but I'm definitely getting my reps in. Um, yeah, it just so yeah, so it was so awesome. It was everything that I wanted, and I was very fortunate to have. So my very first trainer is Sonny DeFarge, out of the Wrestle Factory, and then he kind of stopped at the Wrestle Factory, and I went to uh, train more with Cheeseburger out of the Worldwide Dojo, and then that's how I met Speedball. And so and I also had another trainer in between that as well, named Mike Quest. So those were like my main four, the core four, which I'm very fortunate that those were the ones that I got to start with. Because I mean they're great. They all taught me something completely different and a lot of the same stuff, but also a lot of completely different stuff. And um, I think Sonny is one of the best trainers in the world when it comes to teaching beginner level stuff. I just felt like a lot of us understood and picked it up a lot quicker than we would have because I just think he was such a good teacher at that stuff. Um, so yeah, I was very fortunate, and so whenever I showed up, he was full of. I don't know if he was full of passion or if he just saw that I was full of passion, and then it like the energies reciprocated from one another. But I had tons of fun when I started. And I mean, I still have tons of fun. This is my favorite thing to do, my favorite thing to think about. So,
So, I don't want to delve too much in the negativity of things, but you mentioned that earlier in your life that you were bullied for being a wrestling fan.
yeah.
But walking into training, did you feel maybe a sense of belonging knowing that you were amongst people who had similar interest in wrestling?
Yeah, maybe. The thinking of belonging is like such a interesting thought to me. I never even think much about whether or not I belong somewhere anymore. Like that's just such a thing that no longer exists in my brain. Like I want to do something, so whether or not other people believe I should be there, or not doesn't really affect me. Like, I'm just gonna get through it and I'm gonna show why I should be here or should be wherever I am. Um, but it was not like I have enjoyed the camaraderie of it, and I do think more camaraderie has happened the further I've gotten into wrestling. So I mean, honestly, probably wrestling itself has kind of helped me with the concept of allowing myself to feel belonging or um, feel those types of feelings because I was so jaded by them growing up. If that makes any
Absolutely. Yeah,
sense.
no, definitely. So, what is something that training taught you that had nothing to do with executing moves?
I mean, a lot of timing, like really realizing how fast things are happening perspective wise. Like things are happening for y'all like a lot like slower. Uh correction. To us when we're performing it, it feels a lot slower to us. But to y'all, to people watching, we're moving at like lightning speed. Because we can when we're rushing, we really know because you can watch it, you can see it. You know, there's like yeah. So maybe that timing of stuff, just like realizing how fast I'm going, how fast, and the perception of speed. Um, that was something that I yeah, training helped me understand that a lot.
So, what do you remember from your debut match in the first hours leading up to walking through that curtain?
Yeah. I wrestled Santiago at H2O at the H2O Center, and I remember going, "Oh man, like yeah, this is gonna be cool. My mom's here, my cousin's gonna be here, my aunt is gonna be there, my girlfriend at the time is gonna be there, and sick. Like I get to. I've been working really hard. I should have already been having matches." And then I was like, all right, I'm just, I'm sure the guy I'm wrestling is going to be able to, put it together and we're going to be able to figure it out. It's going to be pretty easy. And then we got there and I got there and I was like, oh, I'm having to figure this out. I'm not being led. I'm like, okay, great. And then I figured it out and it was like pretty easy, pretty fun. And I had a great time. And I remember the whole match pretty well. I remember it's funny to think about what I used to do in matches. Definitely my first match comparatively to what I do now. Um, so yeah, really funny, really interesting to think about. Um, but yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, I guess the nerves were from it being my debut, but I remember feeling pretty confident about how I was going to do and that I should have already been wrestling and having consistent matches. That's something I have definitely already felt.
So, you've learned how to wrestle, but learning how to wrestle and discovering who you are as a performer are two totally different journeys,
Yeah, completely.
which brings us to the International Man of Mischief. But
Yes,
before the Man of Mischief could
Firestarter.
run, the Friendly Neighborhood Firestarter had to walk. So,
Yes.
where did the Friendly Neighborhood Firestarter begin? What part came first, the friendliness or the fire? Where was this
Mm,
idea born from?
yeah. So I had been told to just like, you know, it was a promo for a Delirious seminar, and he was like, just say what you feel. And I decided that I wanted to do like Juni Underwood because um I have like an emotional connection to like Dax Harwood, and I wanted to have like a wood based name, and I did a type like I typed in on Cage Match and varying other spots Underwood, and like nobody popped up at the time. So I was like, all right, There's not an Underwood. Cool. So I'm gonna use that. And Juni is a shortened version of my real name. So I just went with that, Juni Underwood. And then I was trying to think of a moniker and I was like, oh, like Firestarter could be really cool. I think that fits me. I'm a little mischievous and chaotic and stuff. So like that seems pretty cool. And so I was like thinking about it, and then the lyrics was like, think like don't fret too much about what you're gonna say, like just cut the promo and like whatever you feel, let it out. And I was actually wearing this hoodie. It's a little smaller on me now, but
You've bulked
um,
up a little bit
I've
since.
I've bulked up a little since I started, and I was wearing this, and I hopped up on the ring, and I said, "I'm the Friendly Neighborhood Firestarter, Juni Underwood." I just said it, and then he liked it, and then I was like, "All right, I'm just gonna run with that for a while," and then I ran with it for a pretty long time, and then I was like, "Oh man, there's a lot of fire starters." And then I went with Pyro Prince, and then I was like, but it's still fire oriented. Like it doesn't really change anything. Like, yeah, it's the same thing, but it's still fire oriented, and fire is too common. Like even people who don't have any fire orientation at all have fire on their gear. So it's like it was just such a very commonly used element. And so eventually I dropped a moniker altogether. I was messing around with some ideas, and I didn't have a moniker for a pretty long time. And then we started diving into character stuff and what I should do. And then Jordan Oliver gave me the idea to be more myself, um, be an eccentric character, an outgoing character. And then we came up with like ideas and inspirations. And then I was like, uh, I remember a buddy of mine. I used to be a part of this group called the Lost Boys, and Ryan Rise did this thing when we started where he would just, they'd be whatever, and it'd be pretty early, and he would just put his finger on someone's chest and they'd look down and he'd flick their nose. And then I was like, I think I can make that bigger. Like, I think I can play with that and make that more mischievous. And I like asked him, I was like, hey man, do you like do that? He goes, no, like you can do it. I'm like, great. So then I kept adapting it, and I started adding the what's up playa because I say that a lot. Um,
Yeah, you do.
and so I'll be like, what's up playa? And they'll look up, and then I put my finger down, and I'll go look down, and then I hit it. And then that's continuing to evolve. And depending on where I'm at and what I do, you know, I'll elongate that idea a little bit. I'll play with them a little more. Because, I mean, people are starting to see it. People are starting to know that that's something I do. And I got to keep them on their toes. So I've started finding different ways and different shenanigans to pull out. Um, but that really evolved. I kept evolving, and then like my gear design and my gear ideas kept evolving thanks to Ace Austin. And I really just have such a good. I'm very thankful for just like all the people that I have that I can bounce ideas off of, and like everybody is like I don't know. I feel like this character and me as a wrestler is kind of like power of friendship coded, where like a lot of people have their, you know, because I did this with this person, because this person said this, I have adapted it to my own thing. And that's kind of just, that's wrestling. And that's how life works, where it's like somebody's going to give you an idea and then you're going to run with it, and you're going to either like it and you'll keep it, or you won't like it and you'll discard it. But it'll always be a part of your story. And that's something that's really cool to me. Um, yeah, that's something that's really cool to me about wrestling.
And I never knew the whole Junie was short for your actual name. Any 90s kid in my mind anyway They hear
It's a
Juni
Spy
and they're
Kids.
like Spy Kids immediately.
Yeah, that's what my mom wanted to initially call me.
Oh
Um,
no, it just scrolled me back to the top. Ugh. I'm like, I literally just read my next question too, and as soon as that happened, I was like, oh no, there it goes. Out of my mind.
it's okay.
Where'd it go? All right, here we are. So, you are known for being vocal and expressive during your matches. When did you
So,
discover that voice?
um, I don't know. In training, I learned really early to when I'm training, make noises and really keep. Yeah, yeah, Atticus. Yeah, tell him.
It's okay. We love pet cameos on here.
Um, yeah. So you know, I dang, he ruined my train of thought. Actually, where was I at?
Known for being vocal and expressive. When did you
Yeah,
discover that voice?
yeah. So training was a big, like at training, I was always very vocal when I would do stuff. It was a big thing for me. Um, because I had heard constantly the thing you need to do is be louder and be vocal. And as I'm wrestling, there's moments where I think I'm doing really good at it. And then, people are like, hey man, you got to lock in on that. And then I kept locking in. And the more I see the kind of like newer generation come up to the generation right after me, like those are the people that I'm like watching and I'm like, okay, I get it. I need to keep getting louder, keep being vocal, keep saying stuff, keep being expressive with my body. And I'm fortunate that I became a theater guy. That's part of the origin story. Like that's kind of how I got back into watching wrestling is theater. And like theater helped me really, understand a lot of different mechanics about the body from projection to um from projection with voice, but also with your visual physical features being large, trying to make yourself larger than life. So because you need, wherever you are, whatever theater you're in, the person in the back needs to be seeing you as if they're in the front. And that was a big thing for me. So I try my best to be, I try my best to sell well and, it really express to the audience what's hurting on me. Because usually it is hurting a lot. Because my body is just so beat up. But I'd say that was a big yeah, that was big. That was big in helping me be able to do that.
So, throughout this interview, a lot you've mentioned connections with the audience and just little bits and pieces of things to portray to the audience. But what
Yes.
emotion do you want people to feel when they watch you wrestle?
I want them to feel fun. I want them to feel happy. I want them to have a good time. Maybe sometimes I want them to be a little pissed off, like not everything can be sunshine and rainbows, you gotta sometimes, sometimes I think like I want to play with the audience a little bit and I want them to have some irritation. Um, but that usually that there's probably a reason for that. And that's probably the story I want to tell. And um, yeah, I really just I want them to have a fun time. I want them to enjoy themselves, regardless of what version of me they're seeing. Um, and yeah, that's a big thing for me. I want them to have fun. I want them to feel happy and fun, excited to see me too. Maybe excited to see me again.
So, developing a recognizable identity is important, but eventually you need moments that prove that identity can survive outside of your
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Yes.
What is a match that changed the way you saw yourself as a performer?
Um, hmm, I have a few, but I would probably say my most recent JCW match with Alec Price and a match the following week with Gary J at GCW. I'd say those two were like so pivotal to for me in the last few months. Like really really helped me evolve. Um Prior to that, I mean, I have a bunch of different moments of leveling up. Like I've done very good at that. Like whether it's I had a match with Ace Austin or even scramble matches that I got to have with people like Trey Miguel and Dante Leon and uh Alan Angels. Like there's so many times I've gotten to wrestle with anytime I get to wrestle with somebody who's been in it way longer than me, I really do get so much out of it and I level up so much. But I also like me and like anytime I wrestle Flying Ryan, anytime him and I are in the ring together at all, I level up a lot. Those are key towards helping me be a better performer, I'd say.
And Ryan's a phenomenal performer himself and a Smoke Meteoras alumni.
Nice.
So, what is one moment that may have looked small to everyone else but meant everything to you?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about the small part. I'm not sure about the small to everyone else. But like my favorite moments have been um probably like when me and so getting to wrestle Chris Bay and Ace Austin with Ricky Price a few years ago, like right before Chris Bay got hurt. That was incredibly important. And being able to talk after and talk about mental health and suicide awareness, like that was just such a cool moment for me. And Speedball talked after my match with Alec Price at JCW, and that moment meant a lot to me. And there's a lot of moments that I have with like Jordan and Alec and Flying Ryan on the road that just mean that do mean a lot to me. Learning about them as humans and learning about their stories and their journeys and yeah, I'd say the a lot of those mean a lot to me. A lot of the memories I'm making right now mean a lot to me. Um, like Ace Austin, I just won my first scramble at Revolver, and right after Ace Austin came out, and we had a little moment in the ring, and that was just super cool for me too. Like to be able to have moments and in any capacity feels so surreal.
So, what disappointment has helped shaped you the most? Whether it be losing an opportunity, or whether it be from missing flights, or whatever various reasons, or a match that you had that maybe didn't meet your expectations, something along those lines.
Well, funny enough, I guess like I don't know if it shaped me a whole lot, but it's something that I am so I love. I like this story now. Um, Yesterday, Revolver announced that I'm wrestling Leo Rush next Saturday in Dayton. And what is so kind of funny about that and how life works is a few years ago, I was wrestling for CCW pretty frequently. And I was told I was going to have a match with Leo Rush. And that didn't happen. And instead, I ended up wrestling Griffin McCoy. And Griffin and I have since then, like, we've we've wrestled again and we've had good matches. And even the match we had up until the point where it kind of got derailed, not necessarily to either of like due to either of our faults, but um yeah, the match just was not, not necessarily what either of us had hoped. Like I thought I was gonna wrestle Leo and then it went from I was gonna wrestle Leo to it was gonna be me, Leo, and Griffin, and then it ended up just being me and Griffin. And we had, we were trying to make the best out of it, and it ended up not being the best thing we could have made. And that moment definitely helped me understand that, sometimes things are not in the cards. And something a little different about this moment now and that moment is Leo wasn't even announced fully. Like I think the show that it was supposed to happen on was like a mystery vortex type show where it was all a mystery what all the matches were. And so he didn't like announce it. And whatever. But in this case, like it's announced. So like it's gonna happen. And as Lord willing, as long as everything goes the right way. I think Leo ended up getting hurt at that time, which is why he wasn't able to actually like do the show. But I think that moment taught me a lot about timing and just like honestly, I don't know if I would have actually been ready for that match back then. And even then, this version of Leo, even if it's still Blackheart Leo Rush, I was going to be wrestling Blackheart Leo Rush. This Blackheart Leo Rush is not the same Blackheart Leo Rush that was around 2 to 3 years ago. Not the same. And not only has he changed and gotten better, like honestly, probably a top 10 all time right now. Not all time, but top 10 currently right now. Like that is so it's cool that I now get to wrestle him while I'm at my current best. Not at the best I'll ever be, but I'm definitely better than I've ever been. So it's kind of like everything happens for a reason, everything changes for a reason, everything happens the way it's supposed to. So I think that was something I learned from that moment. Um, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it was still a great moment to have. I love getting to wrestle like Griffin and anybody like that. So um, yeah, I'd say.
It's funny that that's a situation with Leo Rush because you're not the first person I've heard of having a situation like that
With Leo or just period?
with Leo.
Oh, that is
So
funny.
previously, there was a promotion in Rhode Island where I had originally met the Miracle Generation boys,
Mm,
and Kylon was supposed to have a match against Leo. And if I'm remembering correctly, I believe it was around COVID,
mm.
and one of them I think ended up having COVID, so the match didn't happen or something with flights. I don't fully remember. But that match never ended up happening in that promotion, and that promotion no longer exists. But probably 5 or 6 years later on down the line, Wrestling Open came along, and those two started getting very, very over with Wrestling Open, and Leo ended up going to Wrestling Open and had a match with Flash and Kai eventually. So Kylon did get his match, but he had to wait for it.
Hey, that's how it is. He's probably better off having it then. Who knows?
So we've talked about Juni the athlete, Juni the character, but Smoke Meteoras is also about discovering who exists when the wrestling gear comes off. So
Yeah.
who is Juni Underwood when wrestling is not demanding your attention?
I am just a dude doing his best. That's really it. I'm a loving husband. I do my best to be to my wife. Um, I have two awesome cats, Atticus and Charlie. Charlie is awesome. She's a black cat. She likes to vomit a lot. Um, Atticus is a little demon. He's a flame point Siamese. He's really awesome. He's basically all white with like a orangish like tail and a little bit of orange like on his head.
Oh.
Super sick. Um,
So a question from the fans. What has it been like sharing a locker room with guys from Vandal 48, Nick Gage, Tremont, and some of the vets of GCW?
Great. Super great. I think all of them, everyone you just said, has actually contributed in helping me um, come a pretty long way. Somebody like I don't think Vandal gets enough love for their real understanding of like professional wrestling
A
and
thousand,
storytelling.
a thousand fucking percent.
Like I think they're all three of them.
I think Atticus is one of those like sleeper geniuses when it comes
Yeah.
to wrestling. His
Yeah.
mind is so fucking crazy when you sit down and actually pick his brain about wrestling.
Yes. I think that about him, but I honestly I think that the most about like Otis. Like I think I've gotten a lot of just great feedback and knowledge from Otis that I did not expect to get, you know? Like and a large part of that is like I don't expect to learn much from anyone. I let life happen. You know, maybe I'm like I try to just go into every situation with an open mind and I'm sure that somebody can teach me something. And like when I first heard Otis talk, I was like, "Oh, wow. This guy is like he I want to talk to him. I want to keep listening to what he's got to say." And that was a big like I felt that way a lot about Nick Gage. Like Nick Gage, something I've really learned from him is that like kind of similar to what I've learned from Jordan Oliver and Alec is like just being more myself and just being unfiltered and being me and like not wavering from that. And so like yeah, I would say I mean being around all those people like so awesome. Just so awesome. And I mean there's so many other people too, like I mean Effie's great. Effie similarly with Nick Gage, like he's just so unapologetically himself. And being around that is so important because the more comfortable you are with yourself, the better performer you're going to be because you stop taking things so seriously and you allow yourself to be the butt of a joke and you allow yourself to perform whatever is needed to the best of its ability. And like, so I'd say being around people like that, like, oh my God, Jimmy Lloyd is also like such a genius when it comes to like wrestling and ideas and moves. Um, and just so much like I think that's what's so awesome about GCW is it does feel like a melting pot of geniuses from varying generations. Like where yeah, we're getting it and I'm so happy to be a part of it in some way.
So, what are some of the things that keep you grounded when wrestling becomes overwhelming?
Man, I don't know. I don't even know if that's a thing. I mean my wife does really good at helping me, calming me down, keeping me afloat, helping me remember that like, this is just a down if there is one. Um trying to just remember that like who I'm doing it for, what I'm doing it for. Like I have a niece and a nephew. The niece was born right before I moved away from North Carolina because that's where I'm from. Uh right before I moved away and right when my wife and I kind of started having feelings for each other or showing the feelings to each other um, is when my nephew was born. And my nephew just got to the point now where he's kind of got like a memory and he like knows I'm his Uncle Juni and he's starting to watch like a bunch of my matches. Like my sister will record him reacting to something that we're doing in the match and he's like he'll just say fun stuff like "Jump on him, Uncle Junior, jump on him," and like whatever, and like stuff like that is helpful. Like and right now, something that's incredibly helpful is like taking a step back and like prioritizing bookings in my body, like prioritizing certain bookings, but also prioritizing taking care of my body and making sure my body is good because like I'm running it pretty ragged. And I think when I can do that, when I can really balance the work life balance, I can figure that out, which I feel it coming. I feel like I'm getting there. I think I'll be a lot better mentally, physically, spiritually.
So, so far on your wrestling journey, you've been wrestling for about 8 years now. What has wrestling changed about you, not merely as a performer, but as a person?
Well, 8 years is not quite. Um, I've been training
Heavy
for 5 years.
interest for 8 years. My
Yeah, yeah,
apologies.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I was like, I was like, I
My
don't know. I
apologies.
was like, I hope I'm a lot further in 4 years. I hope I'm a lot further 8 years into having matches. Um, because I'll be about near 1,000 matches by that point, if not more. Um, but uh, say the question one more time.
What has wrestling changed about you, not as a performer, but as a person?
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, yeah. Um, I I have gained confidence. Um, maybe in some situations or scenarios it might be slightly cocky. I have become very confident um, in my abilities and my mind, and I know that I am an incredibly hard worker. I think the biggest thing is that I think it's changed the way I see myself. Like I think prior to wrestling, I was like, oh, I'm a scrub. I'm this. I'm so negative. But now I'm like, no, like I'm a hard worker. I work really hard. I have, I mean, I just had my 475th match, and I'm not even 4 years into having matches. Like, yeah, I'm in. I'm on it. I'm working so hard, and I do really well. And yeah, I think like I talk to myself differently. I talk to myself differently, and I talk about myself differently. Um, and it comes from a place of confidence and acceptance and kindness and love towards myself, and not uh, negative negativity towards myself and a sense of self-deprecation. I'm not trying to do that anymore. Sometimes the old habits die hard and they show up and they rear their ugly head, but like I've gotten better at keeping them down and like really being confident in who I am as a person and the decisions that I make. And I know that the decisions I make, I am going to do my best, and it's going to be with the best intentions. And I'm going to do my best to have fun and make sure that everyone around me has fun and that everything is good.
And when people eventually look back on your journey, what do you want them to say you brought to wrestling?
I want them to say that I brought outside of fun, because that's always the answer. I want them to say that I brought a little bit of unorthodox energy, a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of unknown, a little bit of keeping them on the edge of their seats, keeping them on their toes. When you see me, you may think you know what the match is going to look like, but I want to turn that on its head every time, and I want to keep you guessing. Regardless of how close you think you're getting to the answer, I want to keep you guessing, and I want them to be like, he was a fun guy. He kept it interesting. He always challenged my brain, and I want them. That's what I want. I want them to do that. But I also want them to know that the person Like, I want them to know that the person is kind and that the person did their best to also help them. Like, I want to help the audience escape. I want them to feel good. I mean, there's likely people, audience members that only have themselves. And when they come to the show, I want them to know that they don't have just themselves as long as they're at this show because they have me. They have themselves and me. And, maybe that's not enough, but at least you have somebody to rely on. And as long as you're there and we're talking, and even then, sometimes like if somebody hit me up and it was like super dire and it was on whatever form of social media, I would help and I would do my best. And because that's just what I do. And that is how I do my best to live, you know?
So, we've explored where the passion began, what shaped it, and what continues to keep it alive. But now we really find out what happens when we throw Juni Underwood directly into a meteor shower.
Yeesh. Okay.
So, this is the spot where we get a little more fun. We get into a little bit more of your personality. So,
Okay.
we got some funny, silly questions.
Great.
So, you are entering a Pokemon style tournament. What type are you, and what does your entrance look like for your Pokemon?
Probably actually, so I've thought about this a lot. I My favorite Pokemon type is not electric, but electric probably is the type that I would be. Um, I used to say like ghost and fire because I love Gengar. Um, but yeah, I'd say like electric type, and I guess entrance wise, I would just try to have them like do my pose as much as they could, and we just you know that'd be
Uh,
awesome.
all
Like
right.
imagine like I don't want six Pikachu's in a party, but imagine six Pikachu's and me, and we're just awesome.
All right.
That's
So,
gas.
professional wrestling, it's now becoming an anime arc.
Yeah,
Are
that's
you the
awesome.
hero, the rival, or the final boss?
I mean, I want to say hero. I don't think I'm like final boss material yet. Uh, I also was like, I was hoping you were gonna say like a slightly different answer. Like, I imagine, I imagine I'm the character that lives too long and becomes a villain. Like, I start off as a hero, but I've been through too much, and that's what I imagine.
Okay. All right. So, you are now entering the superhero universe.
Great.
But one hero must be replaced by a professional wrestler.
Okay.
Who is getting a new casting?
Okay. So, like, does it mean like in the movie universe, like superhero movie universe?
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. I was like, man, dude, am I gonna switch like the actual like comic book characters with somebody? That's crazy. Um, let's see. Ooh. Okay, yeah, I got this. Easy style. This is easy. Might be a cop out, but I'm going to replace Gambit with Ace Austin.
Ooh.
Ace
Yeah.
Austin's as Gambit.
That might be a cop out.
Cop out.
Well, that's like replacing um of course now I'm blanking.
Me with Tom Holland. How about that? I want to be Spider Man.
No, female X-Men.
Rogue.
Yes, that's like saying replacing Rogue with Chris Statlander.
I I I mean, I I didn't see that until now, I guess.
I'm pretty sure she's done a Rogue-inspired
Oh, has
gear.
she? Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, she may have.
Yeah,
That's probably. I guess I just didn't. I don't
haven't seen it.
remember.
I'll have to find it and send it to you after this then.
Oh, that's sick.
All right. You are now trapped inside one video game for an entire year. Which game are you choosing and how are you surviving?
Uh, the universe of Final Fantasy. I guess if I have to choose like a specific one, probably 9. Mm, that one might be hard to survive. Actually, man, that would be so. Well, you know what? If I get to the main cast, I'll survive. That's all I got to do is get to the main cast because they survive, and I'll get to them. I'll get to them. They will keep me alive, unless unless I end up being a reason why they fail. But hopefully, that's not the case. Uh, Final Fantasy 9, and I would get to the main party. Don't know
All
how I
right.
would get to them, but I know the game so well I would get to them.
You can now form a tag team with any fictional character. Who is your partner? What is the team called? And what is your finishing move?
Yes, yes, that's awesome. Um, I don't know. I feel like this is not. I feel like my mind is gonna change like 400 times in the next day. But I'm gonna go with what I got right now. Um, I'm gonna go with my tag partner would be uh Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece because he's hilarious and mischievous as fuck. And we would probably be known as uh, the Mischief Pirates. I don't know what our finisher would be. Something insane because he's stretchy. So like I imagine we could do like some crazy electric chair thing where he like grows his body really long. Um,
Or I could see, like, you said pirates, so I could see you, like, holding his feet and him holding, like, the ropes at a turnbuckle corner and you swinging him back and forth like a pirate ship and then, like, dropping him for, like, a splash.
yeah, that could be sick. And the thing is, because he's so stretchy, like I might, we might be able to, yeah, we might be able to do something nuts there.
Just to
Get him
play
to
up the gimmick.
yeah, that could be so cool.
All right.
Toss him straight over the top rope and make
That
it
would be
just be a
pretty
count out.
wild.
We win by count out because he's not getting up. He's
All
not
right.
getting.
You can now main event inside any fictional arena or location. Where are you wrestling? Who is your opponent? Can be any opponent, dream opponent, whatever you choose. And what is the crowd like?
Oh man, that would be so cool. Um, I want a really. I'm hoping for an incredibly large crowd. Um, but they're like aliens. Like imagine like a really large Star Wars oriented crowd. Just a bunch of random aliens. That would be so sick. Me versus Chris Sabin, because Chris Sabin's my dream match. Me versus Chris Sabin in an arena filled with aliens. Um, and I don't really necessarily know of an arena, but I'd like for it to be like a floating arena, like a Sky Fortress type thing. That would be awesome. Wrestling in the sky while there's a bunch of aliens watching us. That's kind of sick.
You are now creating the most absurd wrestling stipulation possible. What is the match and how does someone win?
Mm. Most absurd wrestling stipulation. Um, that's not my real answer. Man, I don't know. I feel like that's hmm. Build a stipulation. Huh. Shoot. I think I've seen that before. I like the idea that it's like a falls count anywhere match, but it's actually a falls count only here. But you have to figure out where here is. But I think I've seen that before. I could be wrong, but I think I have.
I'm like, I don't I'm like, I've
But
never seen a match like that, but
well,
let's
yeah,
see
but
if
I feel like I've heard of one, but I'm gonna go with that because I love that idea. And I would want to do that because I think that'd be a lot of fun.
let's see. Nothing that's coming up. So maybe.
I feel like it was like I feel like Mystery Wrestling definitely did this.
Still a
But
cool idea.
it's a great idea.
All right. You are now stuck on a car trip going cross country for a booking, but you are only allowed to listen to 5 bands or artists along the way.
Great.
Who are we listening to?
Um Lincoln Park, Lil Peep, um Rise Against, Juice World, and MGK.
All right.
Probably. I think those are my 5 right now.
And let's end this on a good note. If you
What
could
my 5 road trip bands is in a high note?
that is a high note, but I want
Okay.
to end on an even higher note.
Okay. Great.
What is a funny road story that you can share with the public? You do not have to include names if you don't want to.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see.
But if it includes Alec, I'm all ears.
Um, I mean, I guess I have funny Alec ones, but trying to think of. Let's see. Because a lot of things are like not necessarily funny when it's happening because they're like arguments. But then like when we think about the argument, it's really funny. Um man. um I'm trying to think of something that's not a you have to be there story because I have a bunch of those like being shown videos of or listening to audio tapes of Loki cursing people out. Like those are hilarious. But like you don't, that doesn't mean anything to you, you know, unless you have like full context or I go in depth on what all was said, but I don't fully remember it. I just remember laughing a lot because it was hilarious. Um, because I feel like right now I'm blanking, but as soon as we hang up, I know I would have so many. I think what's hard about a lot of the road trip stuff is like I did so many road trips like on my own. So I'm like trying to think of stuff like where I wasn't on my own. Which there are plenty. But just thinking about all of those specifically.
Or
Um,
even if it's just a feel good brotherly love story.
yeah, I mean, there's tons of those. I mean, there's always tons of those because anytime we have like, you know, anytime we have like a good match or good moments, like anytime we're all, yeah, anytime that we're all feeling good, it's like nice. When we're not feeling good, you know where you know we're not feeling good. We're at each other's throats. Um, I think a really good, a really fun one. Um, well, it's not fun, not fully. Me and Flying Ryan, we've been through a lot together. Uh, we were coming back from a C4 show, going to Revolver in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we hit a deer. And like my car was okay, had a little bit of damage. Eventually got fixed, but the way when it happened, he's like, I'm chilling, like it's my car, and I'm chilling, and he's just stressed out, freaking out, and he's like, "Oh my god, I like hate that deer. I hate deer." Now he just hates deer. And what's fun, the brotherly love part, I guess, is like we could have just went home and not went to Indianapolis, Indiana, because we were in like New York, so like we could have just went home, but we chose instead to like grind it out and go to this to the Revolver show, and then eventually we made it home. Um, but I think like moments like that really show you like, who's down to grind it out with you, who's gonna like who's gonna push you, and who's gonna help make you a better person, make you a better wrestler. And so I always, yeah, I think I like that trip a lot because despite it being really hard and really difficult, um, I gained a lot of, respect for Ryan, and we spent a lot of time together, and that really was like a big step forward, really, I think, for him and I.
Well, Junie, thank you for sitting down with me and allowing us to discover more about the person, passion, and persistence of the International Man of Mischief. For those in viewing who may not be in your area, where can we keep up with you on social media? And if you are in our area, where can we catch you at your next event?
At Juni Underwood Pro on Instagram, at Juni Underwood FS on Twitter. Um, I mean, I wrestle so often. Like this tomorrow, uh, is Joey Janela's 20-year celebration at Asbury Park, New Jersey, and then Friday I'm in North Carolina, Greensboro for Free Flow Wrestling, and Saturday I'll be back in Lancaster, PA for 3LW, and then the following week I have Wrestle Pro in New Jersey on the 13th is a Thursday, and then next Saturday I'm wrestling Leo Rush, August 15th, in Dayton, Ohio for Wrestling Revolver. And then I plan on being at Homecoming Night 2, which is in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So as soon as I get done wrestling Leo, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive all the way from Dayton, Ohio to Atlantic City, New Jersey.
All right. So make sure you follow Junie, support his upcoming appearances, and check out everything he is creating both inside and outside of the ring. To everyone watching at home, tell us in the comments where you first discovered Junie and what part of his story connected with you the most. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode to help us continue telling these stories behind the independent wrestlers of the wrestling world. until next time, we will be back on Sunday with Dirtbag Dan. So be
Dirtbag
sure to
Dan.
check out that episode. And again, thank you to Juni for joining us. Thank you to everybody viewing at home. We will be back on Sunday. Until then, adios.
Amigos.